The more the merrier.
Attention convention goers, the guest writers and artists will now be signing at their tables, and Garth Ennis will be under his. A panel on time travel has been moved back to yesterday. There's an all-you-can-eat buffet at 10 Forward, aka the International House of Pancakes across from the hotel. And in the Gemini room, Spider Robinson is giving a speech on fandom called The Web of Sanity. Thank you. Have you heard his speech, Nancy? No, well, basically, Spider says that science fiction fandom is a network of very intelligent, imaginative people, with some exceptions.
One incident in particular stands out in my mind. Jeannie and I had been asked to be guests of honor at a convention in Washington, D.C., and this was a matter of a week or two after Jimmy Carter had attempted to rescue the Iranian hostages and the helicopters all fell into the sand. So tensions were high, and the convention was held about 2 blocks from the White House in a hotel, and some civilian walking past the building glanced in the window and saw what looked to her like people in paramilitary uniforms carrying what looked to her like automatic weapons. These were Star Wars lightsabers and Star Trek zap guns and such. And she called the heat, and the heat called the big heat, and they called the SWAT team, and the SWAT team responded in force. Just as Jeannie and I were returning from being taken out to dinner by the con committee, we're in the middle of the lobby, and suddenly all the doors bang open at once, and here they come, the Royal Badass Ballet. It was poetry to watch. It wasn't at all like Hill Street Blues. These were not Howard Hunter goofs. They were smooth killing machines, and they swarmed, and across the lobby, some fan with a blinking light zap gun decided that now would be a funny time to pull his piece and go at all the nice men with the automatic weapons. And all around the lobby, hammers came back and shells were pumped into chambers and safeties were taken off, and I landed on Jeannie, piled on top of her, and there was a vast collective silence, and then the leader of the SWAT team was heard clearly to say, "It's all right, they're only nuts." And everyone exhaled at once, the doors all blew gently open on all 4 sides of the lobby. And then a deputation of the typical average representative fans took that young man out in the alley and beat him until they couldn't lift their arms anymore. Because that is not intelligent behavior. There are goofballs in fandom, but it tends to be self-correcting.
Testing. Would the owners of a light brown cougar, a black jaguar, and a beige impala please go out to the lobby and feed them? Tarzan fans. The costume competition begins in 2 minutes in Shuttle Bay 3, and on the bridge, Walter Koenig will be discussing William Shatner's Get a Life skit from Saturday Night Live. Thank you. Did you see that skit, Nancy? No? William Shatner told a room full of costume Star Trek fans that they should go get a life. You know, people dress up for a Halloween party, right? Halloween parties, well, they're for adults. That's okay. Shriners on go-karts, well, that's no problem at all. That's a respectable thing to do. But a bunch of Star Trek fans getting together, you know, to do the time warp again is somehow dangerous and psychotic. Go figure. Anyway, Nancy, here's my costume. What do you think of it? Wow, is that your costume? That's good. Well, did you make that? That's great. Wow.
I would hope, and I don't say it with 100% confidence, but I would hope that being presented with that skit, I would have turned it down. I would hope that. You know, a chance to be on Saturday Night Live, it's enormous exposure. It could be very beneficial for one's career. So I cannot say with total authority that I would, but I don't think it's fair only because I don't think it's representative. You can take any situation, and there are people who walk around in beanies and their belts, you know, tied up under their armpits on their pants, you know, and look silly and talk foolishly and are totally focused on Star Trek to the exclusion of everything else. But they don't represent a majority of the fans. I meet a lot of stimulating people, a lot of bright people, a lot of creative people who are involved in Star Trek. It's an adjunct, it's supplemental. It is not the primary reason for their life. It is not their raison d'etre. I feel that showing that skit without any balancing of the balancing argument leaves for the audience the sense that, well, Star Trek fans are nerds, you know. Not only does it reflect badly on the Star Trek fans, it reflects badly on us, Because what it says is that only nerdy people, are interested in Star Trek, and therefore our following is doesn't represent, the cross-section of the population. And I don't think that's true at all.
I like the show. I go to conventions, but I don't live it every day of my life. I've got a full-time job. I work, and it doesn't come into play at work at all. I think the majority of Star Trek fans, Trekkers, if you want to call them that, feel that way.
The reason that the Trekkers are opposed to the term Trekkie is the fact that Trekkies are people who go overboard with their love of Star Trek. A case in point, last year there were 2 people who paid $20,000 to have their ears surgically pointed. And that is the sort of thing that the average Trekker, who just likes to come for a weekend like this to enjoy a convention, they don't want to be associated with people like that. Neither do I, really.
It's now becoming more acceptable to enjoy science fiction with Star Trek and the various movies and everything that goes on. You're getting a higher, I don't like to say it, but almost a higher class of person. They've got money in their pocket, they're intelligent, they're interested rather than just coming and thinking they know everything and they're going to, it's the only place they're accepted. People are finally coming and questioning things. You still get a few people that are like that, the socially challenged people, but they're definitely decreasing. And I think it's also got something to do with our society. We're teaching people better. Socially, we've grown a lot in the last 10, 15 years. So you've got less of them out there, and so less of them come to the convention.
I must admit, one lady said to me the other day, I was in Oregon, and she said, how does it feel to be beamed? And, I had to stop and, okay, now how can I answer this without, and she was dead serious. And I said, well, it feels better than say. No. So, but that's the one story that, that kind of sums it all up. They really are sort of into this,
Yes, Mr. Dorn, I understand you hosted a charity event honoring the Los Angeles police. How did that put Star Trek into perspective for you?
I did a benefit for them where I was doing commentary about the Medal of Honor winners. And these guys are like, taking their wounded partner through a hail of bullets, and there was a dog that saved his partner, this canine that saved his partner while he was mortally wounded. All this real stuff that was touching and brave and stuff. And I go to the Star Trek convention the next day, and this lady says, isn't Star Trek inspiring? And I kind of go, no, I think it's good television. This is inspiring, And I kind of tell people that, if you want to be inspired, there's enough in the real world to be inspired. There are people doing stuff every day, that's inspiring.
Okay, welcome to the filk singing, or filking. For you first-timers, filking is science fiction's karaoke. And here's a little tune called Convention Angel. We were out on a date in my daddy's Ford to the con at the Hojo's by the airport. My baby bought a Dalek and some Dark Shadow cards and a bootleg of Blooper starring Worf and Picard. She dragged me to a panel on alien sex and another on RoboCop special effects. We saw tiny scale models and walls full of art, and somewhere in the costume ball we drifted apart. I left in tears when my girl won first prize as Lady Godiva from the planet Vega 5. Everyone could see where Douglas Adams had signed and where the cast of Red Dwarf had autographed her behind. Oh, where can my baby be? Science fiction took her from me. She's gone to fandom, so I gotta be good, so I can see my baby if she comes back to this world. There were Vulcans standing all around, and tables of comic books, some leather bound. And Next week on Second Nature, we'll meet an anthropologist who can use a radiocarbon detector to find any date up to 40,000 BC. but can't use a phone to find a date for next Saturday.